Hello, my lovely people. Welcome back to another video. So what I have done today is I have wrote in like a story format a little bit about my journey here in Australia. So it's basically a little story that I have written about personally moving from England to Australia. But it's more just about moving away from home. So I hope you guys can relate to this and I hope you can apply it to whatever situation that you are in. I'm so sorry for the noise right now. I'm sure you can probably hear the ambulance. It's a bit of a noisy time of day right now, so I do apologize for that. But if I don't film it now, I'm not gonna get it done. So I hope you guys enjoy. It's been just over 7 years since I moved away. Since I moved all the way to the other side of the world, away from my family and friends and everything I had ever known. I never went to university. Once I finished school, I got a job in a local gym while studying to be a personal trainer. So I'd never even lived in a city. Although I had moved out of my family home by the age of just 18, I'd never lived outside of the same little town. In fact, most of my life at this stage, I had barely lived outside of the little village that I grew up in. I was doing really well for myself. I had a big client base full of beautiful young girls and women. The odd guys actually, you know who you are if you're watching this. I ran classes that got so packed out that we never had enough equipment in the studio and barely enough space. I remember running around the gym before the classes to take the weights from there so I didn't have to turn girls away. This time of my life is truly a time I will always remember. These few years were full of some of the best times of my life, but also some of the worst, that, quite frankly, broke me. I was becoming an adult whilst trying to run my own business with no idea what I was doing. I had made some unfortunate choices which I knew, after too long moping around, I had to now make the decision to accept this, move on with intention, and make something of my life. That's around the time that the opportunity to move to Australia on a 1-year working holiday visa arose. Many people didn't understand at first. I mean, I had built up my own business, had and still have lots of great family and friends around me. So the main question was, why do you want to do that for? I guess at that time, many people didn't realize how I truly felt, which at times was stuck in a rut, stuck in the same cycle, and at times, like I was drowning. I felt a pull to go and I knew I had to break the cycle I was stuck in. I believed in myself. So, next thing you know, I was on that one-way flight to Australia at 22 years old, with genuinely no plan for when I arrived in Australia. Just pausing my story for a moment, if you are currently feeling like this, stuck in a rut, feeling like you don't know which direction to turn, please just do something, anything. It doesn't have to be moving to the other side of the world, but any type of action that is going to break you out of the vicious cycle you are in and lead you to have a different outlook on life. Take action, do something, anything, because time is passing you by as we speak. Anyway, back to landing in Australia. Wow. I'm being genuinely honest with you all. After just even a few days in Australia, I fell in love. I fell in love with the place. I started my Australia journey in the Gold Coast, just as Australia was heading into summer. I was staying in the Hilton Hotel on one of the top floors with the most magical views of Surfers Paradise Beach and skyscrapers. Genuinely, this was my idea of paradise. I'm a 22-year-old girl living in the Hilton Hotel, waking up and doing what I want every day. I have never in my life felt so free. The unknown of each day never felt so exciting. Most days were full of new adventures and enjoying places I had only ever dreamt of exploring. I know it may sound like I'm trying to sugarcoat it, but genuinely this is how I felt. And quite quickly I knew I wanted to make Australia home. I made myself be at peace quite quickly with the fact that to be out here, I would miss out on many of things back at home. Of course this is tough, but I accepted early on that I made the decision to move away from home, and to give it the best go, I had to be present with where I was and where I am at, and grab opportunities as they arise. I knew that being at peace with this would make a huge impact on my journey out here, and making it truly work. I spent a lot of time alone in my first few months, but I taught myself to be okay with this. Spending so much time alone in a new country with no plan didn't feel that scary to me at the time. It felt so exciting, like I could achieve anything I wanted to. I'd never really felt like this before in my life. It gave me a new level of belief in myself. I'd never really felt like that before. Spending so much time alone and with my own thoughts gave me a new love for people and connection. It made even the smallest interaction feel so special. Although I was missing out on things back at home and didn't have my family and friends around me, I'd never felt more at peace with myself. This attachment I had for things and certain people back at home slowly felt less and less, lighter and lighter. I felt capable of anything and everything. I never realized how much I needed this. I missed my family and friends, but I was so in love with where I was at that it overpowered that homesick feeling. So anyways, the longer I was living in Australia, the more people I began to meet, the less time I began to spend on my own. I did my farm work and, well, you'll know if you've done your farm work, what an experience. Something like I have never done before. Those memories will stay with me forever. I stayed in a working hostel. So basically, this means you pay the owner rent each week and then they find you the work. I was put in a room of 4, sleeping in bunk beds, working maintenance on a blueberry farm. It was long days, early starts, very little privacy. Sounds awful, right? But I loved it. Well, it was a love-hate relationship. It's the people that get you through. Oh, and maybe the fact that our hostel had a bar on the bottom floor. It was the real definition of work hard, play hard. You're living and working with the same bunch of people in some small town in Australia in the middle of nowhere. The fact that you're all going through the same thing for the same thing, the visa, brings a deeper level of connection and understanding. I had never drunk so many pints in my life. Like I told you guys earlier, I'd never really done the university thing. I started working straight after school, so this was the first time I truly felt like I let my hair down, and it felt so good, so exciting. I actually ended up going back to the same farm to get my 3rd-year visa. I had to do 6 months of farm work this time as opposed to 3 months. This also fell at the same time as COVID happened. I was classed as an essential worker, so I was able to keep working. So anyway, fast forward a few years of living in Australia, and I decided to settle in Sydney after my 2nd stint of farm work. Not long after this, Sydney went into another lockdown. I was working in the gym, which, as we all know, closed during lockdown, so I was unable to work for months. It was a strange time. I tried to use the time well. I started posting more fitness content online. I did online courses, went for lots of coastal walks, but a lot of my friends left to move back home during this time. So once the lockdown lifted, it felt different for me. My best friends were no longer in Australia, and I just felt a huge pressure to do better. I don't know if it's because I was heading into my mid to late 20s, or if it's because things become massively more expensive whilst earning the same salary, or if it's because during lockdown everyone's suddenly become business owners online. Learning a zillion things in one day, making X amount of money online, and it was rubbing off on me, making the simple pleasures of life no longer feel enough. The rent went up, and the time was ticking on my visa, Members in the gym began to complain about the most random things, that some of which weren't even to do with the gym. People's mental health had quite clearly gotten worse over lockdown, making customer service much more challenging than ever before. I no longer felt like that same free, excited 22-year-old living in Australia, but I was now living in the reality of genuinely making a permanent life for myself here in Australia, well, at least trying to. Things began to change back at home. Since leaving for Australia, I became an auntie, and now, just over 7 years later, I am an auntie of 3. There's been many weddings and celebrations, but also, sadly, a funeral and also a freak accident. It's crazy how much these types of life events can affect your moving away from home journey, even many, many miles away. Suddenly, you find yourself feeling a similar feeling you had when you left your hometown right at the very start. You realize moving away will never fully heal or fix anything, but it does make you a much more adaptable person. You begin to understand that you must treat emotions like visitors that are just traveling through. Because you know yourself that living away from home heightens your emotions, but you learn how to ride it out. Just like a wave, you have to bring yourself back to, well, why did I move away in the first place? And is it still serving me? Priorities change, and that's okay. Life is tough as it is, and doing life away from your family and friends can feel much tougher. But that feeling of building yourself a life from scratch in a new place / country even is something that only people that have done it will understand. What do you guys think? I would love if you guys that live away from home or have done what I have done and are living in Australia, I would love to know what you guys think, and I'd love to know about your guys' journey. I like to write, guys. I love writing. I always have. And sometimes when I'm feeling certain ways or I'm thinking back at my journey and thinking about what I want from my future, sometimes it helps me just to write it all down in like a story form. And since I started YouTube, I actually love so much to share it with you guys. So yeah, this is just a condensed version of my story out here in Australia and moving away from home. So I hope you guys watching are watching it because maybe it's helping you and it's relatable, or if it's just interesting to hear someone's version, their story of moving away from home. So I hope you guys all enjoy. Sorry if I get a bit jumbly when I'm trying to read it. My eyes have just gone so blurry from being out in the sun and writing and then reading it off the paper. But yeah, I hope this is relatable and enjoyable for you guys to watch. And I'm gonna love you and leave you, and I'll see you in the next one.